Hi team, welcome to my channel. So today we are going to talk about a very interesting subject called sales call analytics. So what happens is, a sales team, for example, working in a call center, they typically call thousands of prospects in a day. Now there is a constraint, so we need to analyze all the sales calls which are happening so that we know which prospect has a better interest in our product. And this definitely saves, a lot of time for the later sales process. Again, these calls are very rich source of, information which can again be used for coaching, or I would say sales rep coaching. And that's where, the whole sales call analytics or conversation analytics space comes into the picture. Now, what we are going to do here today is we are going to take one specific sales call, and again, we will be using a simple wave file, and we are going to use Whisper for doing ASR, which is converting this audio into text, and we are also going to do something called diarization, which is separation of different speakers within that particular audio file. And then what we are going to do is pretty much interesting. So the whole sales call analytics is very deep in itself. But what we are going to do is we are going to do some very simple things like finding the sentiment within the sales call, doing a summarization, and again using some very rudimentary basic sales qualification framework, like for example BANT, so that we can qualify the prospects better. So yeah, let's see how the flow typical is. So here is the typical flow. So we will have some wave files, and what we can do is we can using ASR, which is automatic speech recognition, we can convert this wave file into text. So we will be using OpenAI's Whisper. We'll be also doing something called diarization, which is nothing but extracting different speakers within that particular wave file. Then what we can do is we can use any large language models to do some analysis on top of the text that we retrieve. For example, we can find out the overall sentiment. We can find out the overall summary. We can also use something called sales qualification framework. For example, one of the very rudimentary sales qualification framework is BANT, which is budget, authority, need, and timeline. So basically, what it tries to do is it tries to qualify you whether you have requirement with respect to these different parameters. For example, let's say you have a very urgent timeline. So a prospect has a very urgent timeline that he or she has to implement this project as soon as possible. So whenever a sales rep is talking to them, they can use this information to provide a solution in a timely manner to them. Also, there are a couple of things. For example, as a sales rep, your product may be somewhat very expensive, and there is something like a budget constraint from the prospect, then definitely you can't qualify them. So that's what sales qualification framework like BANT can work in. Now, if you see, there are like already a lot of companies doing that. For example, Gong is there, people.ai, all these companies are doing sales qualification framework and other things. And their solution, their SaaS solution is typically very complex. And, BANT is a very simple thing. What they do is they do a very, very deep analysis on, lot of sales conversation. This step, which is storing results into vector databases, is optional. So what you can do is you can store these all called transcriptions, uh, convert them into embeddings, and store it for later retrieval or doing some analysis. That's optional step what you can do. Also, one thing which we should note is here we are using uh, ASR, but typically what happens is when you are extracting calls from, let's say, Zoom or let's say Microsoft Teams, then rather than doing diarization manually, you might automatically get who is the speaker. So which is a additional benefit to us, and then you don't need to do diarization. So this is the whole sales call analytics space, also called as conversational analytics space, and this is the typical flow how it is done. Let's now see the code. So let's have a walkthrough of the code. So I will be sharing this collab with everyone. So first of all, what we are doing is we are mounting to the current directory. Then we are installing LangChain and OpenAI and other dependency. Then I am loading something called myconfig.json where I am loading all the OpenAI keys and other credentials, for example, Hugging Face tokens and all. Then I'm instantiating GPT 3.5 Turbo and I'm instantiating with LangChain. So this I will be using for different things, for example, summarization, sentiment, and doing something on BANT. Then with this command, I'm trying to find out how much GPU memory I have. Then I'm doing ASR and diarization. So this is not my code. All the code that is written by this specific repository. So shout out to them for providing this code. And I have modified this a little bit, but basically what it's trying to do is it's trying to use Whisper for diarization. And I will walk through some of the steps for this specific parts of the code. Then what we are doing is we are installing the libraries that are needed for ASR and diarization. So these things are needed. So yeah, this is the typical code which is used for ASR and diarization. Now I won't go into much into detail, but what it's trying to do is it's trying to load the wave files first, and then using different vector embeddings, it's trying to do a clustering. Why we are doing a clustering is because we need to differentiate between different speakers. So to do speaker diarization, you need a clustering to be done, and that's what it does. So basically, the end output is a text as well as different speakers. That's what this whole code is doing. And again, shout out to this specific repository for doing everything. I definitely changed little bit of code, but yeah, this is what's coming. So basically, what we can do is we can transcribe and we can provide a wave file and the total number of speakers. And again, there are steps available where you don't know if different number of speakers you can play around with that. That's a separate thing. But here in this specific sales call, I know that it was two. That's why I have provided two. So basically, if you see, you get a text output from this wave file, and that's what the output of ASR is. And I will walk through this specific thing in a much more neatly manner. So yeah, here is where I have provided the actual ASR output in a more neatly manner. So basically, what's happening here? There are two speakers. So one of them is sales rep, and the other one is a CTO of a company. And what they are doing is they are talking about a specific product, sales product, and that's what's happening. So basically, uh, you know, we are talking about that there is some specific product to the CTO, and CTO is saying that, okay, that sounds interesting and all, and what else we can do. So that's what we are talking about. So let me go through the analysis for this ASR transcription first. So here is, overall sentiment. So again, what we do is we pass this transcription to GPT 3.5 Turbo, and what we are saying is what is the overall sentiment of the call, and here is the context. So it reads all those things and find out what the sentiment is. If you see this output, definitely it seems to be positive, and that's what it said, that it's positive. So that's good. Second is what we are trying to do is again with GPT 3.5, we are saying, can you summarize this call? Again, this call is at least little bit, so a summarization will help. So here is the summarization. Speaker one, John, which is a CTO, and speaker two, Samantha, which is a sales rep, have a conversation about this solution, sales analytics, yes, product. Speaker one expresses an interest in the product but has budget constraints. So CTO during this call, John, he said that he is very much interested in this product, but he has some budget constraint, which is true. Then speaker two assures that they are going to provide a particular good deal to them, and that's what it is talking about. And then, speaker one agrees for the demo and suggests involving the relevant stakeholders for a comprehensive evaluation. So what CTO John is saying is that, I understand this solution is good. Let me involve my team also. and the conversation ends with both speakers looking forward for the demo. So this is what typically happens in a sales call. Also, you have different rounds, and you do a demo with one team, second team, all stakeholders together come in for the final thing, and that's what's happening. Now, the most interesting part is, again, I talked about sales qualification framework, which is a BANT here. So what we are trying to do is, during this conversation, is there anything specific mentioned about budget? For example, is there any budget constant? We already saw that. Is there any authority? For example, when we say authority means a sales rep should talk to a person who is the final decision maker. So in this case, John was a CTO. So definitely we are going to check that. Then need. So is there any business need for that specific solution? That's also part of sales qualification framework. Then the timeline. Timeline is also one of the very important factor, because if you need things urgently, then definitely sales rep will try to provide the solutions as soon as possible. So that's also there. So what we have done is we have provided a template, I would say a prompt template, and what we have given to 3.45 turbo is observe the following. So this is what the need is, what bent is, and what we have said is, with this context of the whole ASR conversation, do you see there's a mention of budget, authority, need, and timeline? And let's see the answer. So this is what the answer is. Budget, the prospect budget is a concern, which is correct. Authority, yeah, speaker one is the CTO, so we already see that John is the CTO. Then needs, the prospect business needs include the consolidation analysis of their sales data efficiently, which is good. Then timeline. So again, in this conversation, there was nothing mentioned on timeline. So CTO John was interested, but again, he didn't mention anything on timeline. So overall, that's how the whole thing is done. And this is just a very, very small part. As I already mentioned, that there are, larger companies like Gong and people.ai, which do a thorough analysis of all the calls and conversations which goes on. They do a lot of things on, sales coaching, sales rep coaching. Again, this specific thing which we discussed was about sales, but there are different use cases for, let's say, marketing, also for customer service also, and all. So these are the typical companies which do a lot of analysis on these sort of things. So again, hope you like this video. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much. Bye.